Well, if you've ever had the pleasure of trying to land in the middle of a monsoon this time of the year, you know it is not a lot of fun. So safety takes priority. The vice president's plane is going to be on the late side. The vice presidential nominee, Tim Walz, his separate plane is going to be late. So while we wait for their arrival and for the storm to figure out what it's going to do, we want to check in with 12 News journalist Brahm Resnik and his panel of political insiders. Brahm?
Hey, Mark, I'm joined by Barrett Morrison of Morrison Media, Republican on our panel, and Tony Connie of Slingshot Strategies.
Good evening.
The Democrat, good to see you. Tony, you had a big role in the Biden campaign in Arizona back in 2020 as well. What we've learned over the last little bit is that 2 days is a long time in politics and a week is a lifetime in politics. Tim Walz, until 2 days ago, wasn't on anybody's, the average person's radar.
Sure. I mean, you would have been hard-pressed to find people who even knew who the governor of Minnesota was, or that Minnesota was a state. So, yeah.
Okay.
I was aware. I'll just say for the record.
Anyway,
I knew that
it does get confused with Wisconsin.
Yeah, sure. Anyways, but yeah, to your point, I mean, no one really knew, and now, they've rolled him out pretty well, and he's getting a welcomed by the national media and by the Trump and Vance campaign as well. So there's a huge effort now to define him, both Republicans and Democrats.
The focus is on Tim Walz right now. By a week from now, might be on somebody else. Realistically, how much impact in the final analysis in November does a VP candidate have?
Well, I mean, I think that political scientists will say it doesn't have a ton of impact. But when it comes to this shorter campaign period, I think it has an impact when it comes to sort of energy and confidence. And Democrats right now are feeling energized, are feeling confident. The campaign announced last night, and so I'm sure it's gone up higher than this. In the 24 hours after Walz was announced as the vice presidential candidate, they had 450,000 donors, $30 million. And the most common person, type of person to donate by occupation was teacher. So there's a lot of educators that were just really inspired to see this former teacher and his wife, who's also a teacher, elevated to the top of this ticket as the vice presidential nominee. And that's the kind of stuff that gives people energy going into the campaign.
The one thing I'll agree with Tony on is I don't think the VP pick will make much of an impact here in Arizona. Can't vouch for Pennsylvania and Michigan and those Midwestern states, but in Arizona, I think the energy increased substantially when Joe Biden bowed out and Kamala Harris got in.
Senator Mark Kelly, who was among the finalists, he was somebody people looked at as a military veteran who could help beef up that part of Kamala Harris's resume. You don't think Tim Walz's experience will help?
I don't think people will. I don't think people will vote for Harris because of Governor Walz. I just don't. In Arizona, I don't think that's going to make a difference. I mean, the do no harm saying about vice presidents, I think is going to really apply here in Arizona. I don't think he does any harm. I don't think he really gets her anything. And I think people are really going to focus on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris still.
And that's, in the end, what it usually comes down to. I brought up Mark Kelly. Does this help Mark Kelly, having been a finalist for VP?
Yeah, sure.
What could this mean down the road?
I mean, I think it just raises his profile. He was already a pretty high-profile senator and person even before he ran for office, and so a lot of people got to know him that wouldn't have really dug into his past before and sort of looked into him as a person. And so I think it has raised his profile, and it's going to, from a fundraising perspective, there's more donors that'll be available. He's already been a great fundraiser, but you can see him, becoming the kind of person. He already does so much work in Arizona to support Democratic candidates up and down the ballot, more than we've had a senator do in a long time. And you could see him maybe go around the country and do that too. He's a good senator. His profile is good, and he seems to really enjoy the campaigning.
But the knock on him from Democrats, and I think people in the media, is he's just not an exciting speaker. And I think that really hurt him during the vetting process. He cannot energize a crowd. He has a great bio. I've talked to a lot.
Pretty good. He's good.
I've talked to a lot of people in even small rooms, and he just doesn't do well in the mingling category.
There is a gravitas to him, but just imagine this. Go back to the other night when Tim Walz was introduced. You had Tim Walz deliver a rip-roaring speech. Josh Shapiro before him did his Obama impression and was pretty strong. It was hard to imagine Mark Kelly getting up to that.
He could have done it. He could have done it. I believe it. I mean, a lot of people thought he wouldn't do well in those debates, and he the way he prepared and everything, he really helped define Blake Masters. He had a couple really strong messages against him. And
well, $100 million really helped define Blake Masters on TV.
Too, but yeah, I think one thing that will be a benefit to Walz being on the ticket is there's just a really big contrast right now between the sort of energy and the attitude of the two campaigns. So you've got two people, they make fun of Harris for laughing, right? And then they've got Walz, who's just like a charming guy. Everyone says he reminds them of their dad. And they're both warm people. They seem to enjoy their life. And the contrast to J.D. Vance and Trump is one that the campaign's starting to lean into. And you've seen J.D. Vance was asked by a reporter the other day, they say you're a little bit too angry. What makes you smile? And he couldn't answer the question.
This is the most interesting thing. There's kind of jujitsu going on, taking what the Republicans are saying and turning that into your own strain.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I think, when they're out on the campaign trail, Trump and Vance are angry and, trying to get you to think that, America isn't on the right track. And obviously there are a lot of issues. But Walz and Harris so far are happy, they're smiling, they still are facing headwinds when it comes to the economy and it comes to the border, but they are at least happy people. Trump doesn't smile, and now J.D. Vance doesn't smile. And I really, guys, you gotta give people warm feelings.
Voters pick up on this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And especially, look, and you've got your base. If you don't have your base, then you're gonna get blown out. So you've got your base already. Focus on the people in the middle, the people who want the good vision. What is your positive vision, not gloom and doom?
We'll have more on that in a second. Mark, you had a question?
Yeah, I did. I'm sure you guys saw clips, if not watched, the former president's speech today, his press conference, and that kind of goes in keeping with what you guys are talking about. Do you think that between now and November, this national fatigue that I sense on attack politics will begin to negatively affect the far right, the former president's base, or are they impervious to that?
They are 100% impervious. And that's why I say, Trump already has the base. He doesn't need to pander to them. He doesn't need to focus on them. They are with him thick and thin. I wish I had a wife, a girlfriend, anybody who was with me like the base is with Donald Trump. They are ride or die. I can't get my wife to go get me a McDonald's in the middle of the night.
You ask your wife to go to
Yeah!
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't been married as long as you. That's something I would do.
I've kind of been burying the lead. There was a big poll out today on the Senate race, presidential race. Kamala Harris may be facing headwinds up at 30,000 feet right now, but she's got some wind behind her in these poll numbers just released as she heads to the Valley. According to High Ground Public Affairs, in the Arizona presidential race, Kamala Harris, 44.4%. Donald Trump, 41.6%. Don't know is around 9%, other 5%. This was sort of before and a little bit after the Walz pick was known. Kamala Harris is making a difference. Joe Biden was not getting these kind of numbers in Arizona.
Yeah, and there's a couple of numbers that really stood out to me sort of in the crosstabs of those. One was when it came to young voters. Voters under 30. She's winning by, I think it was 35%, with Trump only getting 24.9% of the vote, which is a very small number. And that wasn't something that Biden was getting before. And largely it was because of concerns about his age, right? And so now these folks are coming home.
And the Palestinian war.
Well, the polling I've seen has mainly been about age, but because you would think, but you're okay, so that's fine. The other thing I would say, though, is that seniors, in Arizona, when you're a Democrat, you think, let's keep it close with seniors, try and get it with the other folks, and then you can get to a win. Mark Kelly, he lost with seniors, but he won big with young voters last time. He won really big with young voters. Harris is tied. She's tied with senior voters in this poll.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot about, the statement earlier where it's sort of like there's this fatigue.
Barrett, last word.
Well, I wonder, that Trump number seems a little soft. I've seen many more polls where Trump is in the mid to high 40s. But remember, Trump has never crossed 50% in either 16 or 20. Yeah. So, and also, I do think Harris has some room to grow with women. She was winning 55 or something like 52, something like that. And so I think she actually has some room to grow with women, actually.
Right, got it there. Barrett Marson, Tony Connie, thanks so much. Mark, Caribe.
All right, Bram, thank you guys so much. And stay with us as we await Vice President Harris's visit to Arizona. We know we have some weather in the area that is leading to some delays. So we're going to take a little break right now, but we hope that you'll join us back here at 6:30 as we continue our 2024 Decision 2024 coverage right here on 12 News. We'll be right back.